we're like, okay, let's do it. So our team spent we spent about $100,000, literally $2,000 a week for almost a year. And the engineering team could not do it right. Every week we would get our report and it would just be a bunch of crap and a bunch of stuff just malfunctioning. And I said, oh my God, this is going to be so bad if we push this out here. So instead, what we did was we went with there's a company called Mighty Networks that lets you create networks, and it's already been tested. It works really well, and you can create your own network on Mighty Networks. So instead of developing something entirely new, which was a complete nightmare, we went ahead and did it in a way that we know is actually functional, and we've tested it out. So that's one of the new things we have in place now. So you guys can feel free to go to Blag Enough. I'll spell it again. Write it down if you missed it the first time. It's BLAGGENUF. BLAGGENUF. And if somebody could type it in the chat for those who missed it, I'd appreciate that. Blagenough.com. And then also, of course, you guys know the All Black National Convention's coming up. That's going to be in exactly 1 month from now, actually. So it's right around the corner. The discounted hotel rooms are almost out. So if you want a discounted hotel room, you may want to go ahead and reserve your ticket. And also, if you have a business and you want to market your business, we would love to help you market your business. We have a big platform, a lot of people that buy Black. And the reason that we solicit that or want to make it easy for you to market your business there is because the Black Business School funds this convention every year. It is not cheap, but I'm not complaining, but it's not cheap. And so any help is really valued. Freedom isn't free. And so one of the things that we choose to do is we don't take money from corporate sponsors because we don't want anybody to get in the way of the messaging. We have specific, unique remedies for the Black wealth problem in America. And we believe that solving that problem requires us to ask questions no one else will ask and to suggest solutions that no one else will consider. Because we're firmly convinced in the Black Business School that the racial wealth issue has not been resolved because the people that are in charge of resolving it don't really want to resolve it. I don't believe the politicians really want Black wealth to go up. If you look at every measuring stick of Black wealth over the last 50 years, Black people have consistently been at the bottom. Income, we've been at the bottom. Family, and then broken families and everything else that they're mass promoting to us have caused us to fall further to the bottom. To the point where you've got a segment of the Black community that's become, as Dr. Claude Anderson refers to, as a permanent underclass, almost like the untouchables in India. And what distracts us from this, and this is actually going to get a little bit to the point that was on my brain today that I wanted to share with you kind of as a business lesson. One of the things that distracts us from this and makes us believe that it's okay is that you have a lot of shiny athletes and entertainers that are doing really well. You have a few entertainers that are doing really well. So people get the false impression that the entire Black community is doing well. Do you get what I'm saying? Give me a yes or you know what I mean? Like, people think if you ask, the average white person, like, how are Black people doing economically? They're going to say, well, look at Diddy and look at Dr. Dre and look at these other people. But most Black people we don't relate to that. That's not our life, right? Intelligent Black people, those that I represent, those who want to be smart, who want to have good families, who are not into, into toxic culture. You don't get a lot of support. You start a business, you can't raise $100,000 for your business, whereas I know a lot of white businesses that are very mediocre, that are losing billions of dollars. They can go raise 10 million, 50 million, whatever, just like that. Black owned businesses can't really get that money. So effectively, all these are cultural variables that we pick up on in the Black Business School because this is what we study. We are the economic surgeons for the Black community. Sometimes when you have a serious problem, you don't need a doctor that's going to just give you a pill or say, here, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. You need a surgeon that's going to really go in and really look at the problem in extreme detail, focus solely on that problem and fix it in an isolated space. So that's what we are. We're like the economic surgeons of the Black community, in that we have people that are specifically focused on, number one, prioritizing the Black community. That's our top priority. There's nothing else. In fact, it's not even our top priority, it's our only priority. And then also we have experts from a multitude of areas that work in a cross-disciplinary way. So that's what led us to create the Black Financial Therapy Department, because there's no other Black Financial Therapy Department on the planet. There are financial psychology departments and things like that, but we do Black financial therapy because we wanted to get Black therapists therapists like Dr. Brittany Henry, who works with my wife, and some other therapists to really, really drill into this and figure out what's going on with Black people. Why is our wealth not growing? What are the solutions, et cetera? So the consequence of this is that you don't get a lot of mainstream support. You know, we'll never be as popular as the rappers and the basketball players and things like that. It's also seen as somewhat radical because the idea of putting Black people at the top of the priority list instead of the bottom is seen as it's extreme behavior. Like, why in the heck would you really care that much about Black people? That's kind of weird. You're supposed to just kind of pretend like you care and not really actually solve the problem. That's kind of what people are used to. And so we don't get corporate sponsorship. We don't look for it. And also sponsorship from the government will be very dangerous for what we're trying to do. So we raise our money, you know, the old fashioned way. You know, when you guys support the Black Business School, we pump that money right back into these projects, into the people, into hiring, into everything that we need to do to build that infrastructure. That's what we're doing. We're building infrastructure because the same way you build Stanford University, or you build Yale University, or you build Harvard University, that's the same model we're using to build the Black Business School. And I know it's going to take time, but I wanted you guys to have an overview of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we're doing it well. We're succeeding, right? We without any support at all. In fact, we're so good. We're so good at what we do that there were conspiracy theories saying that we were being secretly funded by Jewish people, which I'm like, well, if these rich Jewish people are writing these big checks, where's that money? Because I could use another 20 or 30 million to go get some certain things done. And we've tried to get a support, you know, from celebrities that kind of understand. And I will say, I'll give Ice Cube credit because I didn't ask him for money, but what I did was I said, let's partner. I said, if you buy $20,000 worth of Powernomics books to give away, I will buy 20,000 too. So I'll match you dollar for dollar, and we'll go and buy these books, and I'll tell everybody what you did. And Ice Cube, to his credit, he went ahead and did that. Kanye West, I tried to get him to consider diverting. Kanye was, I think this guy was bringing in $20 million a month or something with his Adidas deals and everything else. And I said, you know, with just the amount of money you make in a month, we could change the whole community. Like, we could literally develop so much infrastructure. And I said, what we could do is build Powernomics centers across the country, and I'll put your name on it. You can get all the credit. I don't need any credit. I don't want any of your money. I just want you to help the community. He couldn't quite see that vision, but at some point, I believe somebody else is going to see it, right? I believe at some point somebody's going to see it. And I share that story not because I'm criticizing him, because just him lending his name or his attention to something like that. Because he called me last year during our All Black National Convention. We talked for 10 hours straight over a 3 or 4 day period right during the convention. And there's a lot of other great supporters there. But the big thing, the reason I shared this, and I'm gonna move to the next topic in a second, is because I want you guys to know what we're doing behind the scenes, really working on this issue. Every single day we wake up and we're thinking solely about one thing: what does it look like for the Black community to have the economic infrastructure that we deserve? What does it look like to develop, the kind of community that we'd like to have? And I'm also convinced, to be honest with you, that it's not really going to work for a lot of Black people. I think that there are different cultures, there are subcultures in the community. If you look at hip hop, you see some of that subculture with some of the rappers that come out in the messages that are very unhealthy and toxic. And that the problem with that message is that it's being mass promoted at a level that we can't afford. Like, we can't put billions of dollars into marketing a certain message because we don't have billions of dollars. So what you're really going to see is you're going to see these beacons of possibility that are going to come out of the community. To me, that's what the B1 culture represents. That's what intelligent Black people are going to do. You're getting your kids ready. You're investing for your kids. You're freeing them up from the corporate plantation so they can spend their energy doing the things that actually matter instead of spending their energy chasing jobs and paying off student loans and being sort of stuck in the mud. Their race cars won't be stuck in the mud. Their race cars will be zooming down the highway at 150 miles an hour. A lot of people are going to be stuck in the mud because you think about it. And this is where we jump in as the economic surgeons of the Black community by basically realizing, like, why are Black people stuck? Why isn't wealth being built? Why isn't the community being built? Well, think about this. Think about how much time and energy you have to spend doing things that have nothing to do with your true purpose, right? How much time you have to spend at work with your boss, when you should be maybe with your kids or working on your own business or working in your own community. Think about how much money and resources we spend just doing things like paying off student loans, paying back, the University of Iowa because they put us $150,000 in debt to get a bachelor's degree. they got you that $50,000 a year job, right? So little things like that, and then let's not even talk about. We've already talked about things like the trauma, the financial trauma, and other forms of trauma that happen when we're young. It's very difficult to build a solid community and a solid infrastructure on the backs of broken families, broken people, and broken communities. Broken things can't or have a hard time becoming solid. You can't build a solid structure. If I build the World Trade Center, I can't build the World Trade Center, rebuild it with broken equipment, right? Or broken pillars, right? So effectively, these pillars in the community have to be solid so that you can build solid infrastructure on top of that. That starts with just creating the kind of space and environment that even allows for this sort of economic growth. So these are sorts of things we're working on. This is what we're doing. And so Black Enough is just one example of one of the things that we put together. It took us a long time to do that. When I get the money, when I raise that first $1 billion or 100 million or whatever we get, we've raised about $25 million over the last several years. Most of that money has been reinvested into building and developing and carving out channels and infrastructure. So we are succeeding at an epically high level because of you. And I want to say thank you very much, by the way. I will never underemphasize how important you are to this mission. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I think we're still at the beginning. I really believe that at some point we're going to get the money that we really need to do this thing at a proper level. We're going to, and when we get that 100 million, you're going to see systems being developed. You're going to see school systems being built, not one school, not two schools. I'm talking about like 100 schools, right? You're going to see massive support in terms of broad-based economic education for millions of Black families across this country, where literally a Black economic intelligence will be as common as basketball, football, rapping, twerking, whatever else people are doing. Economic intelligence is going to be a part of being Black, right? That's what we're going to do. And we've already done that so far. If you notice, because of the things we've been doing for the last 15 years, you're seeing rappers talking about wealth a lot more. You're seeing, pretty much that's kind of a common conversation now. That wasn't true when we first got started. And a lot of the people that are doing this stuff, they give us credit. They mentioned that we were the first ones to kind of do this. And so I think there's a lot more that can be done. So I want to share that with you as we kind of let you guys know what we're doing with Black Enough. It costs you nothing to join us at Black Enough. I'll spell it one more time. It's BLAGGENUF.com, blackenough.com. So feel free to join. But again, not everybody can get in. So make sure you answer those questions properly so we can know that you're someone that's going to add to the discussion. Just so you know, if you get in there and you see somebody acting a fool, spamming, attacking and fighting and all this other silliness that you see, we're going to put that person out. That person will not be there for long, okay? Because that's not B1. We constructively critique each other. We don't fight and attack. I'm not interested in none of that stuff. That's childish behavior. All right, guys. So let me hop back in and start with one topic of conversation I want to start with is it's in terms of business moves. I want to draw your attention to Coach Prime and just the great job he's done at Colorado in terms of how he was able to leverage all that media attention into a business opportunity. Now, you remember when the coach, in case you don't remember, the coach at Colorado State said something about his sunglasses. He said, the way I was raised, I take my sunglasses off before I talk to grownups or something like that, right? So Coach Prime apparently had a deal with a sunglasses company and called Blenders Eyewear. And so when the guy brought up his sunglasses and it started getting all this media attention, apparently, I don't know if they made this deal before or after this event, but Coach Prime got sunglasses for all of his players. And so literally this Blenders Eyewear they had 1.2 million in pre-orders, like right during the game or before the game. And so it looks like they've sold 72,000 units. And this was driven by Coach Prime knowing that his team would be playing on national TV, that there was a very organic conversation that had already begun around his sunglasses. And he understands something that we've talked about here, that attention is a valuable commodity. Mark Zuckerberg understands that very well. Mark Zuckerberg's made $100 billion by getting your attention, right? When you're on Facebook and you're scrolling or you're debating people on Instagram and all that, that's attention. That's they measure these things. They send reports to advertisers to say, this is how much attention we've captured. This is how much data we've captured. This is, all these people are giving us all their attention. So this is something you can use to make money. And so Coach Prime is tapping into that attention economy. I think it was awesome. It's brilliant. Definitely in the sense that he understands. He's always understood this. He's always understood that sports is about more than just winning and who's got the most talent. It's really entertainment, and it's a business. And if you go back and you look 30 years ago when Coach Prime played for the Atlanta Falcons, he did the same thing. He would draw attention the same way. At the Colorado game, I think the rapper Lil Wayne rapped his team out of the out of the Coliseum or something like that. And then he had The Rock. The Rock was at the game. So there's all this star power that's there. I think Offset from the Migos or something there. So because a lot of things in entertainment and sports blend over into hip hop, right? So for the last 30, 40 years, you would see rappers and athletes kind of hanging out. Like that's because those are kind of the two spaces Black men are sort of allowed to thrive. And that is a good and a bad thing, right? It's a good thing if you're an athlete or an entertainer. It's a bad thing if you're not an athlete or an entertainer, because when a Black man shows up and he wants to be an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, people don't believe him. They say, well, no, you're supposed to be the basketball player, the football player, the rapper, or the comedian. So to some extent, it puts Black men in a box, and it creates that illusion of success because we have a few shiny, Black men that are doing well, whereas there are millions that are just different. Maybe because they're not 6'8", 240 pounds, or they just want to take care of their family, or they just want to go to work every day and drive the bus or whatever. These guys don't get the same attention that they deserve. And so I think that does create an issue. However, to the extent that Prime has understood entertainment and his extreme athleticism as an asset, he's been able to really sort of add to that in a way that has been economically beneficial. And he's been doing that for 30 years. This is if you know his history, all of this is nothing new. He's always put on a show. And what this also speaks to is that economic relationship between he and this position at the University of Colorado. What he's doing now, I've mentioned to you how Colorado is going to make probably $80 to $100 million a year off of Coach Prime, in his presence, which is unfortunate because Coach Prime actually made a point after the game where he said, they said, well, how did your son Shador? And if you're a football fan, you'll know that Coach Prime's son Shador is an amazing quarterback. I mean, like literally a legitimate Heisman candidate at this point. They said, well, how did your son do that? He's amazing. And he said, my son's been like that. He's been doing that. He said, the problem is y'all didn't see it when he was at Jackson State. He said, apparently when we was playing at the HBCU, your TVs didn't work. He said, but now that we're in Colorado, you're seeing what he's doing. And the thing was, when he was at Jackson State, you could still watch the games. You can still find the games, but Jackson State doesn't have the same fan base that, say, a Colorado does. In HBCU schools don't have the same economic and fan support that, say, the Big 12 has, right? So now he's playing in the Big 12. Now his talents are on full display. Now everybody gets a chance to see it. So really, to some extent, this natural acquisition of Deion Sanders by Colorado, I've mentioned this before. It's a logical decision. I would have been very happy to pay him $5 million. I would have paid him $20 million because this guy is going to bring $80 to $100 million into the school. If you look at the ticket prices, you can't even buy a cheap ticket at their games for less than $315. Last year, they couldn't give the tickets away. Nobody wanted to come to the games. Also, the TV deals. Every time when you see the Coach Prime set a viewership record, I think they had 8.7 million people to watch this game against Nebraska. That was a Big 12 record. Like no team in the Big 12 had ever had that many fans watch the game at the same time. So this is a phenomenon that's far bigger than just sports. This is something that's going to leverage into $50 to $100 million in opportunities for him and his family. So he's going to do extremely well from this. Colorado's going to do extremely well. So even though Colorado's making all this extra money off of him, like literally they're probably making 40 times more than they're paying him. It's Pac-12, Big 12, Pac-12. Sorry, Quab, I get them mixed up. I watch college football, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan in the sense that I'll never be more concerned about someone else's business than I am about my business, right? I'll never be more concerned about, sometimes as Black men, we get so much into sports. You ever hear guys like really talk about their favorite team like they're a team owner? They'll talk about the New York Giants and they'll recite the salary cap and the trades and everything else as if, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I would just say that in general, I don't know how. I think that there should be maybe some kind of a limit, right? Because I'm a Cowboys fan. I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life. When I was a little kid, I used to get into fights with Pittsburgh Steelers fans. That's how serious, I was as a Cowboys fan. But when I became a grown man, I was still a Cowboys fan, but I became less concerned with Jerry Jones's money than I was with my own. Right. I knew that if the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, they won several Super Bowls in the 90s. Not one single time when they won any Super Bowl did Jerry Jones ever send me a check. Not one time when they were in the playoffs did Jerry Jones check on me to make sure me and my family were going to be okay. And that was, I remember that deliberate transition. I remember even thinking about politics. I'll kid you not, this is what happened. This was my transition from sort of, I used to be very, very, very heavy, like as a Democrat. And I don't tell you guys what political party to support. It's up to you. But I remember I was on my bike on campus when Bill Clinton was running for office. And I was going to my job at Arby's. And I remember, and I needed that job because I needed the money to pay my rent, which wasn't that much, but I didn't have any help. And I remember thinking, I saw a voting booth or whatever, voting station, and that where I was like, oh, I got to stop and vote, right? Because we got to get Bill Clinton into office. Because at that time, I believed in all the false narratives about how the Democratic Party was going to save Black people and all this other stuff that isn't true. And I remember thinking to myself, I saw the line was really long. And I said, man, if I get in this line, I'm going to miss work or I'm going to be late for work and I'm going to lose my job. And it kind of hit me. I said, if I lose my job, Bill Clinton is not going to call my boss and help me get my job back. You see what I mean? Like I said, Bill Clinton is not going to come save me. I got to save me. Right? There's nobody. I can't wait for Superman. I got to be Superman. So I said, look, I'm sorry. I wish I could stay and vote for you. I wish I could give you my time and give you my attention. But my time and my attention has to start with me first. Right. So me first, be first, Boyce first, Black first, whatever you want to call it. Right. It was like, no, I have to start. I have to make sure I'm taken care of, and then I'll come and take care of you if I got something else. Right. And I think that everyone kind of lives by that philosophy, but I think that something happens in the Black community where we're taught to put other people before ourselves. And so that's really, I think if you switch that thinking, then maybe if you are a man who's obsessed with sports and you really follow your favorite sports team, I would say to you, never, ever really spend as much energy or as much thought on what another man is doing than you put into what you're doing. You know, like I love analyzing what Coach Prime is doing. And I think it's great. And I'm really happy for him. But I'll never think about his business more than I think about my own. Or when people were asking me even about things like the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I said, I know Jay Morrison. He's my friend. He's one of hundreds and hundreds of Black business owners I've helped through the years. But I don't think about his business. I think about my own business, right? So I would encourage you the same thing. This is also true if you think about the job culture that is heavily pushed upon us. We're pushed to go look for these jobs, and we put more energy thinking about his business than we spend thinking about our business. And if you notice, any person who's ever in history built an empire, anybody who's ever built a kingdom or built something strong and stable has never spent more time thinking about somebody else's business than thinking about their own. When Sam Walton built Walmart and he was $2 million in debt and the company was failing and he needed $1.5 million just to survive, and he got on that plane to go beg for that money, he wasn't spending more time thinking about somebody else's business than he was thinking about his own. His own business required all of his attention, all of his energy, right? So I would say to you, if you're trying to do this thing, your family, there's no entity you'll ever be a part of more important than your own family, than your own children, than your own wife, your own marriage, your own life, your own relationships, your own happiness, your own community. All those things have to come first. And then if there's something left after that, then maybe we go help somebody else out. Okay. So just keep that in mind. I think so maybe be Black first, be first is similar to me first, right? So put yourself at the top of your priority list and then you can make room for others, right? But not in a selfish way, but I mean, you and your clan, you and your clique, you and the people that depend on you, the people that matter for you. My family matters to me to a point where I'm not going to think about anybody else's situation until I handle what's going on inside this house. That's my institution. That's my kingdom. That's where me and my wife make the rules. Okay. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is, so I hope you got something from that conversation about Coach Prime. I think that it speaks to just how in general, no matter what industry you go into, when you talk about our kids, every single one of our kids in the B1 community has to understand the business side of what they're doing. Far too often in entertainment, And Coach Prime is a smart guy. He's a very smart guy. I have a lot of values that align with his, and I was a Cowboys fan too. So I've always been a Deion, and I'm a track and field fan. And I saw Deion ran the 100 meters in 10.6 in high school. And I was like, whoa, that's fast. Right. So I know these little things. Right. And also he has similar values in terms of manhood and family and things like that. And I really love that. But I think also generally what this says to me is that any of your kids, that no matter what industry they go into, I really encourage you to make sure they understand the business side of that industry. Like my youngest wants to be an actress, singer, dancer, all this other stuff. I insist upon her every time we talk. Make sure you understand the business side of what you're doing. She follows Disney. How many of y'all got kids that follow Disney and watch The Little Mermaid and all this other stuff? Anybody else got kids that watch the Disney Channel and all this other stuff? Well, when she's watching Disney Channel, I point to her favorite Disney stars, and I research all this so I can have conversations with her about the things that she feels are relevant. And I'll say, so we'll talk about Zendaya. I think Zendaya was connected to Disney somehow. Chloe or Halle Bailey. I don't know all the names exactly, but The Little Mermaid. But then she did something else before. Don't quote me on the details, but something like that, right? So I'll look at what she's excited about. And so like when the Little Mermaid movie came out, I said, did you notice that they put this movie out on the last day of school? And she said, yeah. She said, we're all going to go see it. I said, exactly. That's because they study you like a lab rat. They study 13-year-old, 12-year-old girls to figure out exactly what 12-year-old girls are going to be doing, what they want to see, what they're going to relate to. And so we talk about that. I said, so I said, when you get older, I want you to go through this book that I'm reading called Disney Wars, and you can get inside the minds of not, just the people that are on the stage, the Chloe Baileys or Halle Bailey, whichever one it is. You can get inside the minds of the executives who create the Halle Baileys. You understand? I said, there were probably 1,000 little girls that wanted that same part. They could have played that same role. They could have been made in an instant overnight superstar, but they picked her. Right. And they marketed her in a certain way. They created a certain image and a certain story, and they released it at a certain time, and they did it in a certain way that would appeal to you. And this is how they make their money. Or we'll talk about even the Disney Channel, the decision to create the Disney Channel. Right. I say, the Disney Channel didn't exist 20 years ago. There were some executives who decided to create this channel and then to create the stars that they came out, That's So Raven and all this other stuff. So all this has a business side to it. Right. And what I help her understand is I said, you see the people on the screen and they become the kings and the queens in your mind. The celebrity seems like they're the most interesting, most powerful person in that dynamic. But I help her understand that the finance and the money and the business is what creates the celebrities. Fame is manufactured. Beyonce is a corporate product. The image of Beyonce, the idea of Beyonce. You see Beyonce, and Beyonce is not stupid. She understands who's a Jay-Z. That's why she's marketing Blue Ivy and introducing her to the world and making her, doing a Deion Sanders, basically making her the topic of everyone's conversation. And then before long, Blue Ivy releases her first solo album. It becomes a hit because she's Blue Ivy, right? And this is kind of how family business is kind of done, except it's being done on a bigger scale. And so most of us can't do what Beyonce does, but we can do something similar with our kids. My question to you is, the same way Beyonce is putting Blue Ivy on and putting Blue Ivy out there and positioning her where she's gonna succeed unless she chooses to fail. Blue Ivy would have to work really hard to fail based on the carpet that was laid out for her by her parents, right? So I encourage you to imagine to yourself, what does it look like for me to lay the carpet out for my child? Right? What does it mean for me to lay out a condition in a situation where they would have to work hard not to be successful? You can't put them on stage in front of 100,000 people. I know that's hard to do, but you can do things like the $5 a day investing plan so they can have resources when they get older and don't get saddled down, stuck in the mud with student loan debt, corporate jobs, and all this other nonsense that distracts us so much. You can do little things like make sure they have a proper economic education at an early age so they understand all the different ways to make money and have a full life. And then also, just so you know, when I talk to my youngest about economics, I always start with, basic things like what is going to make you happy. How are you going to be happy? Let's talk about happiness. Let's talk about what you want out of life. Let's talk about freedom, right? So these very vague ideas so that I'm not telling her what to do. I'm not telling her what career to go into. I'm not telling her that money should be the most important thing in the world. I'm saying your happiness should be important. And then that, because I know she's not going to argue with me about that. She's not going to rebel against her own happiness. And so then we start from happiness and work our way backward into the economic conversation, and how money is not the thing that gives you the happiness. Money is the thing that blocks for you, like a football player blocks for another player. Money clears the path so you can pursue your happiness. Do you understand what I'm saying? A lot of people can't pursue their happiness because they don't have enough money, or they have to go to their job every day, or they just don't have the resources or the time or whatever, or they don't even know what makes them happy. So the things that clear the pathway for happiness are financial security. Self-awareness goes a long way, so that when you say, okay, now that I got enough money, I don't have to go to work anymore. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What does make me happy? I don't know. A lot of people don't know what makes them happy. So they go to the mall and they're like, okay, maybe happiness is at the mall. And if I get a new iPhone and buy me some new shoes and whatever, and, no, that's not going to make you happy. So the question is, once you get that ability to pursue your happiness, where is happiness located? How do you go get it? What does that look like for you? Because if you don't have that, if you have too much money and you don't have a sense of purpose, or an understanding of self that drives you to whatever's going to make you happy, then that's where you get these wealthy drug addicts from, because they get bored. They sit around, they're bored to death because they don't have a purpose, because nobody gave them the purpose. A lot of people have their purpose given to them, right? That's why people get married and have kids and get their job right out of college, because then next thing you know, their purpose has been created by the corporate plantation. Your purpose is to get up and go to work. Your purpose is to pick up the kids. Your purpose is to, deal with your spouse or whatever, right? So what happens if you just have freedom and you can do whatever you want? Well, you have to figure out what your purpose is going to be. And if you can do that, then life becomes very rewarding. Life is a lot of fun. I have fun every single day. I really do. I love what I do. 100%. I'm not pretending. But that's because I think a lot. I meditate a lot. I process everything, right? So get that in your kids, get them to do similar things. I think it's going to work out for them. Okay. And then they'll praise you forever because you help them find happiness in a world that's full of misery. There's a lot of misery in the world, a lot of financial stress, a lot of financial trauma. When you help them escape all that, they're going to thank you forever. Okay. All right. So anyway, let me answer some of your questions. Let's see. Was GWH ESS Tech Inc. one of your stock picks? Natasha, I don't recall that one. The thing is, every week when I give you what Dr. Boyce is buying, and I put that right in your login. If you go to the blackstockmarketprogram.com and log in, you can find it under what Dr. Boyce is buying. I literally grab stocks based on the research that tell me that there's a chance that they're underpriced, or that the price projection is higher than the current price. I don't recall GWH being on the list. Now, if I looked up GWH right now, if it's something you saw me talk about, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I can't even remember everything we talked about way back then. But what I'll do is, if I look at GWH now, I don't see anything remarkable about this stock. I mean, it's $1.38. Stocks like this can be very tempting, but remember, the stock is down 83% in the last 5 years. So the only way you'd be able to make money from this stock is if you have some material reason to believe that whatever has been causing their stock price to drop by 83% is going to change, right? They got a new CEO or something. The Instacart IPO, what are my thoughts on the Instacart IPO? Well, if the Instacart IPO was today, and you like Instacart as a company, then perhaps this might possibly be a good investment. This is not investing advice, but it could be a good investment in the sense that that it looks like the market's down a little bit today. And typically when the whole market goes down, it kind of pulls everything down. And I'm looking here. Are you sure that Instacart's even available for sale though? Because I'm not seeing. Let me see. Let me check. Here we go. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, so they're taking limited orders today. Oh, the IPO is today. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the publicly traded price is though. It doesn't look like the price has moved yet. So yeah, I'm looking on Robinhood, and you can place an order for Instacart. I don't have any thoughts on it though, in terms of whether it's good or bad. I think it comes down to what you feel about the prospects of the company and the business. I have no opinion on Instacart in that regard. So I apologize for that. There's nothing really to say there because I haven't done research on that company. So can you explain a stock split? My understanding is that I lose value in a 2-for-1 stock split. No, Albert, in a stock split, think of it like a pizza. If I take your pizza that's sliced into 4 slices and I slice it into 8 slices, do you have a smaller pizza? Yes or no? Is the pizza any smaller than it was before, or is it the same pizza? What do y'all think? Right, it's the exact same pizza. So a 2-for-1 stock split simply means that for every 1 share you had, you're now going to have 2, but it doesn't mean that your shares are more valuable. What happens is that you have twice as many shares, but the value of each share is cut in half. So instead of having 1 share worth $10, you theoretically are going to end up having approximately 2 shares worth $5 each. So it's like me taking your $5 bill, $10 bill, and giving you 2 5s, right? Now, what does happen though is that there are some theories that say that when a company splits their stock, sometimes the price could move up. So companies sometimes will split their stock for different reasons. There's a theory in finance they call the signaling theory, which says that when a company splits its stock, it's signaling to the investors that they believe that the company is going to do well in the future. They're based on their inside information. Because remember, you don't know what's going on inside a company, right? That's why I end up getting like politely frustrated when people ask me about someone else's company, like what's going on with the Tulsa real estate fund. I don't know. I'm not the CEO. I don't work for them. I don't make money from them. I'm not in there. Right. So it's like, so when you invest in companies, the people who know what's going on inside a company are the people who are running the company. They're the ones who know what's down the pike. They know what opportunities, are possible. They know what meetings are happening. And so what investors do is they look at signals from the owners of the company to determine what the prospects might be. Right. So, I'm trying to think here. If you are about to go inside a restaurant and 5 customers come out of the restaurant and they're all sick to their stomach and they're all, making gagging noises like it was the worst food in the world, are you going to want to eat at that restaurant? Yes or no? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right. Why? Well, because you got a signal. You got a signal from someone that have more information than you. So a lot of investing is based on information. And one huge variable in the investing world is something they call information asymmetry. And information asymmetry basically just means that the information is not the same for every participant in the market. The CEO always knows more than somebody who isn't the CEO. Right. So a lot of investors will look for signals from the CEO or from management to tell them what's going on with the company. Analysts have more information. People who analyze a stock have more information than people who don't analyze that stock. So that's why analyst rankings are used, consistently to decide what's going on with a certain stock, things like that. So there are some people who believe that a stock split is a signal from management that the company has good prospects, but that's not always true. Sometimes the management may be sending that signal just to get the stock price to come up. And then there's also what they call the clientele effect, where back in the day, you couldn't buy fractional shares. Like now you can get fractional shares. So now if no matter what a stock price is, you can own a percentage of that company. Even if the stock price is $1,000, $10,000, you can still buy $20 worth of that stock 9 times out of 10 on Robinhood. But before you couldn't do that. Before, if the stock price was, $3,000, you had to pay $3,000 to get 1 share. That's why Warren Buffett keeps the stock price of Berkshire Hathaway really high. I think literally Berkshire Hathaway shares are like $500,000 or $250,000 or something crazy like that. And he does that deliberately because he doesn't want to do stock splits to make his share price, $10 each, $5 each. Because one thing that he doesn't want is this doesn't work as effectively now, but it still kind of works a little bit, is he doesn't want a bunch of people owning his company, right? Because remember, when you sell your stock to an investor, that investor is an owner. When you buy shares of stock, you own a piece of that company. If you buy shares of McDonald's right now, you will get notifications when they decide they want to switch out the CEO or do something with the board of directors. They got to ask you. You're one of the voters. Just like democracy, when they tell you to show up and vote for your favorite mayoral or presidential candidate, well, you can vote for the CEO. When Disney was having an internal battle over who the next CEO was going to be, they said, well, what do the shareholders think? Because they're the owners of the company. So the thing about money is all money isn't good money. You should not take money from everybody, right? So just like I was explaining to you earlier, when we created the Black Business School, I said there's certain places and people we cannot take money from because they're going to have influence on what we are able to do. The challenge is that if you don't accept that money, then you got to do it on your own. But if you can't do it on your own, you have a lot more freedom and latitude than if somebody else is funding you. That's why when you see very prominent Black people either running for office or at the head of major organizations, they're not able to really do what they really need to do because somebody else is sort of funding their power. That's not real power to me. Real power is when you're the funder of that power. Or when I talk to my daughter about Disney, I say that the celebrity doesn't have any power. The people that create the celebrity, that fund the fame, those are the people that have the real power. So effectively, Warren Buffett understands that he doesn't want everybody to have power over Berkshire Hathaway. So he sets his share price so high that only people that before, when you didn't have fractional shares, the only people who could buy into Berkshire Hathaway were sophisticated investors who had lots of capital, who understood the vision. If he'd been taking $1.50 or $2 each from, a billion different people, he would have all these people telling him what to do with his company that he may not want involved in his decision-making process. The same thing is true with Snapchat. The founders of Snapchat, they created a lot of very restrictive rules for shareholders. They said, you can invest, but but you can't tell us what to do, basically. And investors didn't like that. So that pushed the price down a little bit, but they were okay with the trade-off. They said, look, we'll take a little less money for a little more freedom. Freedom is not free. So if you take a little more money, then you're going to have a little less freedom. If you give up some money, then you're going to have a little more freedom. And so with Snapchat, I think part of the reason they did that is because they didn't want a bunch of shareholders to tell them how to run their organization. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind, that it would, and then you can expand that to Black people. If we really want to have freedom, we're going to have to figure out this economic thing. If you can't fortify yourself economically, you will not have freedom in a capitalist society 9 times out of 10. It's very impossible. It's very difficult to do. But also remember that to be financially free doesn't mean you have to be rich. It just means you have to be able to fulfill your needs without a lot of external support, right? So you can do one of two things. You can either get more resources to fulfill your needs, or you can minimize your needs and expectations, right? So I have a daughter. One of my girls is very financially free, but she doesn't make a lot of money. She's financially free because she does not need a lot of money. Whereas one of my other girls, I told her, I said, you got champagne taste on a beer budget. You're going to be in trouble. You better learn how to make a lot of money to support this lifestyle to which you're becoming accustomed. Because if you don't, then you're going to find yourself in a lot of stressful situations trying to get access to the amount of money you need to keep buying Gucci purses and all this other stuff that you get, right? So it's a personal choice, but that's what I see. That's how it's calibrated. All right, so Errol says the U.S. just cost $33 trillion in debt. How long until they cost $34 trillion? I don't know how long it takes, Errol, to go up another trillion, but they're going to get there at some point. I don't like the debt levels. I don't like the deficit levels. If we have another pandemic like they're talking about, it's going to be really bad. And God forbid if we have a war. This country is a mess economically, and it drives me crazy. These politicians are just complete idiots. James, will we be getting more? What options Dr. Boyce is buying this month? Yeah, well, you know what, James? I usually, the Dr. Boyce Moneymakers list for the Prime program, I put that out about once every 3 weeks. So give me another week. And also I'm gonna update the options grid. Chanel, remind me to put that options grid in the Prime program, because I think I might have forgot to send it to you. I think we loaded the PDF version. We were trying to figure out how to put up the Excel version, but maybe we can even do it as a Google sheet or something. But I wanted to share that with you guys for those of you that are in the Prime program. Let's see, Rarick. I'm just asking a question. If you pay taxes to the government, why don't you get your money back from the government? Some people do, and that's that. I mean, you can argue that Black people are hit by taxation without representation. So we get taxed, but we don't get a chance to have a say in how the government's run, not to say that we deserve. So effectively what occurs is other people benefit from our tax money, which is another thing that's just, if you want a reason to get mad this morning, that's something to be mad about too. Let's see here. Are the sessions at BDN and ABNC together? The Black Doctoral Network. Yeah. Well, no, that's a great point. Is that Kim Hitchcock? I see Hitchcock. No, we can't blend the two, but but you know what? The black what she's asking about is that the All Black National Convention, the Black Doctoral Network is happening in the same hotel at the same time. The president, Maurice Green, is a friend of mine, and the Black Doctoral Network is the largest organization of Black PhDs in the country. And Dr. Green has done a wonderful job of bringing together all this brain trust, and so what we're excited about is that this is going to be Black history in the sense that you've never had this many Black thinkers together specifically to solve Black problems. And one thing I can say about Dr. Green is he's B1. He completely gets it. He's not one of these guys that's, trying to toe the fence and everything. He just gets it, and I think it's awesome because his network, his Black Doctoral Network is so powerful that my wife is in that network, and she didn't even know that I knew this guy, right? And all my friends, all my PhD friends are in the Black Doctoral Network, so they're having their conference there that week, and we're going to collaborate on some sessions. He's going to do some stuff with us. I'll do some stuff with them. What I can do is I can text him and try to see if there's a way that maybe A, B, and C attendees can get a discount if you want to go to his convention. So I'm actually texting him right now. Let me see here. Let's see. Okay. All right. So Kim, because Kim Hitchcock is, I think it's Kim, because you are so important. I'm literally texting Maurice right now to see if we can get a discount. So we can let you know, so you can bring the question back up. And also Chanel is in the chat, so she can put her email address and send it to you, so you can check with her to see if there's a discount there. All right, so let's see next. And by the way, if you want to learn about the convention, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's where you can find out what the agenda is and who's going to be there, stuff like that. All right, Alicia says, I like that name. Let's see. Good day, blessings, Dr. Boyce. Not sure if this makes sense. I got this message from an analyst I follow. I know you may not be able to answer this today. However, would you consider taking a look at this? Okay, so you got a message from an analyst. Okay, let's see. Hypergrowth investing. After 2 years of working around the clock of the dream team of AI programmers and coders and investing $4 million to make sure it's perfect, last week I unveiled my newest research project called the Prometheus Project. And after being available to the public for less than a week, the AI system is living up to its potential. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, as I write, we've already closed out a partial. Okay, so are they asking you? It doesn't look like they're giving like a call to action in this message. I'd be real careful about sort of doing these sort of side one-off investments. If you did, if you put like a little bit of money in it, I get it, but there's a big risk in investing in startups, Alicia, because most startups fail. So just know, when somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, I got this great idea, it's going to make $1 billion or whatever, just give me your life savings." Just know that's like you're buying a real interesting lottery ticket, an expensive lottery ticket. Most startups fail, and this is something I had to explain this a lot when people didn't understand, like, because there've been some businesses I've supported that didn't do well. And I said 86% of Black-owned businesses fail. That's why nobody really supports them, because chances are it's not going to succeed. But I support Black-owned businesses just because it's the right thing to do. And also I diversify a lot. I don't put too much of my wealth into any business. But I've had some substantial investments in businesses in the Black community that didn't succeed. And I don't walk around bitter or angry about it. I just know that's part of the process. That's what you got to deal with. So if you put your money in a startup, in my view, this is not investing advice, but my 2 cents is make sure you're properly diversified. Don't ever get your hopes up too much about any one business, unless it happens to be like your family business and it's the business that you're putting your heart and soul into, where you have some say in whether or not that business succeeds. So you're starting a bakery with your daughter. Well, that's about more than just the money. When I started my business with my brother, I wasn't trying to make a bunch of money. I just wanted to make enough money that we could keep on working together, because I love my brother. So, and I love what I was doing. So those are exceptions in my view. But anything else, no, you can't bring an idea to me where I'm going to just go and write a big old massive check just because you have a good idea. The checks that I might write might be bigger based on how long you've been in business, how much success you've already had. If you've got a lot of momentum and you just need me to help you scale up, then we can make a great deal. But if you're just like, oh, I got this great idea, there's so many uncertainties and variables that haven't been worked out yet that it's just the risk is too great. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here. Otis says, "Hey Doc, open positions in RTX, LKQ, and ChargePoint." Okay, I like ChargePoint. I'll look up LQX or LKX. How about that? So if you ask about a stock, let's ask about one at a time. That way we don't. I can make sure I can talk to as many people as possible. LKQ. Okay, looks like it's having a good day today. The last 5 years, it's been pretty good. Yeah, I like LKQ. LKQ is what is this company? LKQ Corp. Let's see. They're a distributor of vehicle products and its parts to repair, maintain, and accessorize automobiles. Okay. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I mean, I would add it. I mean, I wouldn't see a reason not to add it to the portfolio. Again, diversification is always the assumption. I was listening to something earlier today where they were talking about how much Elon Musk is benefiting from this auto worker strike. Basically, the auto workers, I didn't know this, so check this out. So this made me think about buying some Tesla. The auto worker strike is crazy because I think they said the average person that's on strike, the average cost of labor for the UAW, they said, I got to double check this, but they said it's like $66 an hour. Elon Musk, his average hour of labor is like 45. So right there, they're paying $20 an hour more for labor to build their cars than he is. And they said if the UAW gets their demands met, that average cost per hour could go as high as like $136 an hour. I think that includes benefits and everything else. And Tesla is not unionized. Tesla, Elon Musk has been accused of being a union buster. And his argument as to why it's okay to be a union buster is that he says we don't need unions because our employees are among the highest paid in the industry because we give them shares of Tesla stock. And because Tesla stock has done so well, the workers are happy. Now, if Tesla stock ever doesn't do well, then that will be a problem. What the UAW does that is really interesting, that's very different, is they do profit share, which is that's better for the worker, right? Because that means even if the stock price doesn't go up, if you made a profit, we're getting a cut of that, period, right? I get that, but unfortunately, it's not gonna. First of all, it's not gonna match in terms of compensation what the Tesla stock has been making. But then number two, it puts a lot more pressure on the auto industry, on the auto manufacturers, because they have to not only pay these high wages, but they got to give a share of their profits, which is going to hamper the stock price even more, and hamper their ability to compete even more. So what's interesting, and I'm not necessarily for or against the strikes. I happen to be pro-union most of the time, right? Just like every other finance question, it's not a yes or no. It depends. When you get unions that are overbearing, inconsiderate of the condition of the company, or engaged in corruption, those are scenarios where unions are not good, right? The Jimmy Hoffa days, the unions, sometimes the bad outweighed the good. But if you're talking about this idea of aggregating labor and allowing them to compete with the capitalists, then unions are very good, because that's the problem with America. They killed the union so that the capitalists could kind of shape policy in this country that's not healthy long term. So it's a balancing act, because having unions that are too strong and too needy and too demanding and too inconsiderate of what the company's going through, well, guess what? That's going to kill the company. They can become parasitic on the ability of the company to survive, and then the shareholders just walk away and say, you know what? Because remember, workers aren't the only ones who can go on strike. Workers are not the only ones who can go on strike. Anybody ever heard of the term lockout? You know what a lockout is, right? A lockout is when the owners of capital go on strike. That's when the boss goes on strike. That's when the boss says, you know what? You're not being fair. This is not a fair deal to me. I'm out of here. Good luck. I wish you the best. The NBA had not a walkout, but a lockout. They had a lockout back in the 90s. And all the team owners just said, after Kevin Garnett got this insanely big salary, he got $20 million a year back in the 90s, which was crazy at the time. And they said, we're not doing that. We're not paying that much money. So they just said, the NBA is canceled until you come to the table with a deal that makes sense. And then we can get back to business. And the owners were able to, they actually won that negotiation. They were able to really restrict player salaries like pretty hugely over the next 20, 25 years. Okay. So let's see. Next, next question is from Denise. Denise says, Dr. Boyce, can you talk rent the runway for a second and why you like it? I see this 8 of 10 analysts do too. Yeah, okay, let's look at the company. Let's look at the fundamentals of Rent the Runway. Just so you know, in general, it's very, very hard to kind of pick a good investment based on just the fundamentals of the company or the industry that they're in. You can look at industry, but the company, just know there are a lot of great companies that are horrible investments. Like there are some people who even believe right now Apple is not a good investment. And that's because the price is high compared to the amount of money that they can make. Now, Rent the Runway, the reason I like this company partly is because the analysts like it. And the analysts know more about the company than I do. I felt like it was good to add to my portfolio because it looks like a company that has some prospects here. Now, one thing about Rent the Runway, though, that's bad is that it's really struggled the last 5 years. It's gone down 96% in the last 5 years. So it's extremely risky. So Rent the Runway, and it's also losing money, which means that if the capital markets tighten up and the company can't get bank loans like it could before, it could be in big trouble. So Rent the Runway would be, in my view, among the riskier investments, but just know sometimes really risky companies can be good assets to hold. So if you have an appetite for risk, it might be worth looking at. But again, diversification is always a requirement whenever you make investments. But some of these risky companies can really do well. Carvana was an amazing investment because that company was literally teetering on bankruptcy. And then I think the stock, has gone up 10x or something in the last few months. Let's see here. Rarick says, I'm talking about the Black Business School getting your tax dollars from the government. Oh, tax dollars from the government. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's ways to do that. The problem is that I just don't know if our government is okay with supporting entities like this. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not doable, but I've seen a lot of people wait for money from the government and they end up waiting for the rest of their lives and because it never gets there, or waiting for a corporate sponsor and waiting for the rest of their lives. We just operated based on what we had. I said, okay, if we don't have the money to do what we want to do, let's scale it down and do what we can. I think that's more effective than waiting, I don't even know, and I don't want to live off of government grants and stuff. I didn't want to run our organization as like a 501c3 or anything like that. That's just not something I believe would have actually gotten the job done for us. Let's see here. So why did Amazon drop from 143 to 135 in less than a week? I bought it at 123. I'm concerned at how long I should hold. Okay, if you're concerned about how long you should hold, don't forget you can do things like you can buy put options, or you can put in a stop loss order where you tell the app to sell your stock if it drops by another 10% or something like that. Let me see here. In terms of Amazon, it looks like, oh my goodness, it looks like Amazon has dropped 4.5% this past week. I'm looking to see what. I don't see any news that's driving this. No, I think it might be macro. I really do. Macro meaning I think it's the economy at large. Like something happened today that kind of spooked investors. I think it had to do with the Fed and what the Fed may do next. Let me see here. I saw something else that said that the price of oil has gone way up, which could cause some inflationary pressure. So maybe that's what drove prices down. Let me see here. I'm looking at CNBC and it says, okay, the Dow slides 200 points with investors on edge before Fed decision. Yeah, I'm speculating that maybe the increase in the price of oil makes people think that perhaps the Fed may increase interest rates again. But but there's a 99% probability baked in that the Fed is not going to increase interest rates. They said the Fed will also offer economic forecasts on Wednesday. Investors will watch for commentary around the path of inflation and the future of monetary policy. We know that we're closer to the end of the hiking cycle than the beginning, says Kevin Gordon, senior investment strategist at Charles Schwab. How they're viewing the next year out, or at least turning the corner in 2024, is much more important. Oil prices went up. The rise in prices helped energy stocks. Now, the price of oil, again, that's linked to inflation. Leadership of the striking UAW said more workers could be called on to withhold labor if progress is not made by Friday. So I wonder if this UAW strike could increase the cost of labor, because if the UAW gets what they want in the strike, then that could push other workers to demand unionization or higher wages, right? Let's see here. So that's what I'm seeing here. Also, I've seen some evidence that maybe a recession could be around the corner, or some problems with the banking industry could happen, particularly in the ability of businesses to get the funding that they need to keep going, starting with commercial real estate. All right, so let's see here. I learned to invest by watching your TD Ameritrade video, says Dennis. Now that they have moved to Charles Schwab, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Are there plans to do a training video for navigating the Charles Schwab platform? That's not a bad idea, Dennis. Yeah, Chanel, if you can help me remember to do that. Maybe I don't have a Charles Schwab account, but I thought about getting one. So maybe that will be fun to do. We use E-Trade in class. So most of the examples in your class will be from E-Trade, but you can check it out if you'd like. But Charles Schwab, I can look into that. The problem is, in order for me to do the examples, I'd have to set up an account and put money there. And I don't want to, I spread my money out, but I don't have too many accounts. But I may look at Charles Schwab. I like the company. Let's see. Any opinion on Weiss Ratings and their programs? I invested in pre-IPO. Let's see here. I don't know what Weiss Ratings is. I don't know. I'm not a real fan of these sort of off the grid investments, meaning outside of the NYSE or the NASDAQ, just buying directly from the market. There's a lot of websites out here that say, here's this special opportunity that you can invest in. Usually if something seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. And so I'd be real cautious about that. I mean, what can they do for you that you can't just do by getting on your app and just buying directly on the market, where all the protections and all the controls are in place? I think the more you leave the main street, so to speak, the more you're at risk of bad things happening. So I would stick to things that are mainstream, or things that are close to you that you understand really well. Let's see here. CYTK, I bought it last year, and now it's at 50. Now it's at 34. Should I get out? You know what? I think it depends on whether or not you believe that this stock can turn around or not. It's really a personal decision. And the thing is that if you're really at a point where you own a stock and it's been dropping and it's bothering you that much, that could mean that you're not diversified enough. I don't really think you want to be in a position where you've got all your hopes and dreams tied up into one or two stocks. I just don't think that's a good approach. Now with this company, they are losing money, which could cause more problems for them in the event that they can't get the funding that they need to keep going. They're a pharmaceutical company, which means they're pretty risky. If you don't have a strong appetite for risk and can't stomach that, then it may be a good idea to move out. But I'm not one to tell you to when to buy or sell, because when I say, oh yeah, you should definitely sell, you should definitely buy, that's actually violating the rules of finance. The rules of finance research basically say that stocks follow a random walk. Nobody can really predict what a stock is going to do. I know people swear that they can do it, but the theory and the research, thousands and thousands of research studies have said this is not possible, right? So if you say, should I sell or should I buy? Well, it depends on how you feel about the industry, how you feel about the company. If you feel like it's a strong industry. So for example, let's say you have a cannabis stock and you are wondering, should I sell my cannabis stock because it's gone down by 30%? Well, the best thought I could share is to say, I don't know how this company is going to do. I don't know what this stock price is going to do. But what I could say is that if you have reason to believe that the cannabis industry is going to improve, then perhaps what you can do is fortify your portfolio by not betting all of your chips on one horse. If you believe in the cannabis industry, like let's say that you believe Joe Biden is going to eventually leave office and Kamala Harris is going to take over and she's going to support cannabis because she said that, she went on the Breakfast Club saying she smoked weed with Biggie in college or something, whatever she said. then yeah, then the cannabis industry is an industry that's probably going to do well. But that does not mean that the cannabis company that you invested in is going to be the primary beneficiary of the cannabis, industry becoming stronger. What you would do then is you could buy several cannabis stocks or get a mutual fund that invests in cannabis stocks. So you take that guesswork out of it. That what they call the idiosyncratic risk. You that's inefficient risk. That's not risk that benefits you. So you want to always be diversified. So don't get caught up in one stock. You want to own at least 22 or 23 different companies, and maybe even more if you want to be really diversified. And you also want to be diversified outside the stock market. So kind of keep that in mind as you're choosing like what to invest in, things like that. Okay. All right. So let's finish up for today. If you have a question, you can bring it again next week. And also, just some reminders really quickly. If you want to come to the convention, the URL to learn more and see what we're doing at the convention in a month, it's going to be in Atlanta at the Marriott Marquis. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. You can also get a vendor spot. There are a few vendor spots available. The discounted hotel rooms will be available for a few more days. In addition to that, my new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And so if you want to get my books or my wife's books or anything like that, you can go to drboycebooks.com. So feel free to take a look at drboycebooks.com. And last but not least, if you want to get like profit alerts sent to you via text, you can text the word stock to 31996. Text the word stock to 31996. Okay, guys. So I hope this conversation benefited you. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And also for those of you that are in the Prime program, you will hear from me again later on today. Prime is where we do stock options and things like that, and also talk about selling options to generate income. So I've got some updates on the options grid and the income grid and things like that. I'll share that with you in class this week. We're going to meet Thursday night. I'll send you a text. So make sure that you're on the text list. And also, if you want to learn more about the Prime program, you can go to drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. All right, guys. Well, have a great day. And